The movie starts in complete darkness. It feels as if night has reached its deepest point. For a few moments, there is nothing but silence. Then suddenly, we see a man lying inside a box. His mouth is taped shut, and both his hands are tied. He can neither call for help nor speak. He's completely helpless. After struggling for a while, he somehow manages to remove the tape from his mouth. As soon as he does, he starts shouting, begging for help. But no one hears him. There is absolutely no response. The man doesn't even know whether he is underground or somewhere else, because he is trapped inside a small, square-shaped box surrounded by darkness. Then he finds a lighter. He lights it up, and a faint glow fills the space. Now he can finally see a little. While looking around, he notices a small tool inside the box. With great difficulty, he uses it to cut the ropes tied around his hands. Now his hands and mouth are free, so he tries to push the box open, hoping to escape. He tries everything, pushing, kicking, struggling, but every attempt fails. The box doesn't move at all. Suddenly, he hears a vibration sound. At first, he's confused, but then he realizes the sound is coming from his pocket. He quickly takes out a phone, but something feels strange. This phone is not his. The language on it is Iraqi. Still, without wasting time, he dials an emergency number. Luckily, the call connects. As soon as someone answers, he quickly explains everything. He says his name is Paul Conroy. He is a truck driver working in Iraq, and he has been buried alive in a coffin. He begs for help, saying he can't breathe and needs to get out quickly. Hearing this, the woman on the call gets nervous. But then she tells him something shocking. She says the call has been routed to a small emergency center in the United States. The moment Paul hears this, he realizes she cannot help him, because he is buried somewhere in Iraq, not the US. Still, he doesn't give up. He calls his wife, Linda Conroy, but she doesn't answer. So he leaves a voicemail, asking her to call him back as soon as possible. Next, he calls customer care and somehow gets the number of the FBI. When he calls them, an agent answers. Paul explains his situation again, that he is trapped in a coffin and needs help. The agent asks him to explain what exactly happened. Paul tells him that he works as a truck driver in Iraq. One day, while delivering food supplies with his team, their truck was suddenly stopped by some local kids. At first, the kids started throwing stones. But within seconds, things turned violent. More people appeared. One of the trucks was blown up. Gunfire started. People were being shot. In the chaos, someone hit Paul on the head with a stone, and he lost consciousness. And when he woke up, he was inside a coffin, buried alive. While he's explaining this, suddenly the signal drops. The call disconnects. Paul panics. He starts moving his phone around the coffin, trying to catch a signal. After a few moments, the signal returns. He tries calling again, but this time the call doesn't connect properly. Instead, he's asked to leave a message. And then, the signal disappears again. Now Paul is completely frustrated and terrified. He starts losing hope. But then he remembers something. There was a missed call on his phone. He immediately calls that number back. The call connects. A man answers. His voice is cold and unsettling. He says, "So, you're still alive?" Paul quickly explains that he's not a soldier, just a truck driver. But the man doesn't care. He says, "You are American. That means you are a soldier." Then he reveals the truth. He is the one who buried Paul alive. And now, he makes a demand. If Paul doesn't arrange $5 million by 9 p.m., he will be left there to die, buried alive. Paul tries to explain that his family doesn't have that kind of money. But the man refuses to listen. Instead, he says something even more terrifying. Maybe your family doesn't have the money, but your government does. He tells Paul to contact his embassy and warn them that he is going to die if they don't pay. Then he cuts the call. Now Paul understands one thing very clearly. If he wants to survive, he has to contact his government and somehow convince them to pay the ransom. And time is running out. With no other option left, Paul calls his colleague Donna. She answers the call. Paul urgently asks if she is near a computer and tells her to quickly find the State Department's number. But Donna says she is busy and about to leave. Hearing this, Paul gets frustrated and starts shouting at her. Angry and offended, Donna hangs up. Now Paul realizes his mistake. He has no time to waste. So he calls her again, this time calmly and politely. Thankfully, Donna gives him the number. Paul immediately calls the State Department and explains everything. But suddenly, something strange happens. The woman on the call already knows his name. Paul gets confused and asks how she knows him. She tells him that his voicemail has already reached them. When Paul asks for help and tells her about the ransom, she replies coldly, "We do not negotiate with terrorists." Hearing this breaks Paul completely. He begs her, telling her he will die. But the answer doesn't change. However, she gives him another number, Dan Brenner. Paul calls Dan. Dan tells him that he already knows about his situation and assures him that they will rescue him before 9 p.m. He gives Paul instructions to save battery and stay calm. For the first time, Paul feels a bit hopeful. But then the kidnapper calls again. He asks if Paul contacted the embassy. Paul says yes, but they refuse to pay. The kidnapper gets angry, but then lowers the demand to $1 million. He tells Paul to record a video demanding money. He also says there is a note near his feet. Paul struggles inside the tight coffin, but finally manages to reach a bag. Inside, he finds a torch, a knife, and the note. He prepares to record the video. Meanwhile, Dan calls again, asking Paul to stay strong. Paul also calls his mother. But sadly, her mental condition is not good, and she doesn't recognize him. This breaks him emotionally. Then suddenly, Paul receives a photo. It's from the kidnapper. A woman is shown tied up, with a gun pointed at her head. Paul calls the kidnapper, begging him not to harm her. But the man says he once had 5 children. Now only one is alive. His pain has turned into anger. He gives Paul a warning. Record the video within seconds, or the woman dies. With no choice left, Paul records the video and sends it. Then suddenly, he notices something inside the coffin. A snake. A poisonous one. It has entered through a small hole. Paul quickly pours lighter fluid around it and lights it up. The snake escapes. For a moment, he feels relieved. But then another video arrives. This time, the same woman says that her government didn't help her. And right after that, she is shot again. Paul is horrified. Soon, Dan calls again and tells him that his video has gone viral online. It was all part of the kidnapper's plan to pressure the government. Paul starts losing trust in Dan. But Dan insists they are very close. Then Paul hears a sound, a call to prayer. He tells Dan there must be a mosque nearby. Dan gets excited and says they're close. But suddenly, there's an explosion. The coffin cracks, and sand starts falling inside. Paul quickly blocks the hole with cloth. But the sand keeps coming slowly. He checks the time. It's 8 p.m. Only 1 hour left. The sand keeps rising. Breathing becomes harder. Paul keeps calling his wife again and again. Finally, she calls back. They talk. Paul hides his fear and tells her he will be okay. He says, "I love you," and hangs up. Meanwhile, Dan and his team are digging. They believe they've found the coffin. Dan calls and says, "We found you." Paul feels hope again. But suddenly, everything changes. Dan says, "Oh my God, this isn't you. It's someone else. They found the wrong coffin." Paul is shocked. All hope is gone. The sand fills the coffin completely. Darkness surrounds him. And in the end, Paul dies, buried alive.